Whether you're watching your favorite NBA team at the arena, the bar, or hanging at home, grab an ice-cold Michelob Ultra and enjoy every moment of the NBA season. Stock up today and watch your team drop buckets with a bucket full of ice-cold Ultra. Michelob Ultra. Superior light beer.
Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2026 Anheuser-Busch. Michelob Ultra. Registered light beer. St. Louis, Missouri. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Alcohol available only in select markets.
Study
and play
come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get
the best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Mornings have a rhythm. You can hear it, feel it. And at Quaker, we fuel it. With 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber in every bowl, helping you turn that rhythm into your soundtrack for a great day. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
Let's go! Let's go!
So welcome everybody to the Overthrow from the Premier League Cricket Club, once again powered by our friends at Spond. And join us today. You know what we do on the Overthrow? We don't just talk stats. We're talking to somebody who's in and around cricket on a literally daily basis and gets the pleasure of playing and working around anything from juniors to seniors and all kinds of cricket. We've got Jack Davis from Middlesex of the Community. How are you doing, mate?
Warm. But yeah, all good. Thank you very much for having me. Good to be on.
No, absolute pleasure. So, let's get down to brass tacks. Middlesex of the Community. It's the charitable arm of Middlesex cricket. A lot of counties call it their foundation. There's all kinds of different names around the country. But effectively, your job is about accessibility for cricket around Middlesex, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. So we were set up as a foundation, effectively, the charitable arm, as you said, of Middlesex cricket, and overseeing and delivering recreational cricket, making it as easy and accessible for people across the 17 London boroughs that constitute what some people call as Middlesex, others will call it Greater London, but we'll stick with Middlesex. So we've got a young, exciting team. We've probably grown pretty rapidly over the last 2 years. So our staff, I think, are up to about 21, 22 people now. So I joined 2 years ago, started in national programs, so All Stars and Dynamos, and have transitioned into club cricket. And so I now lead on our clubs and leagues delivery and support program.
Got to ask the really daft and obvious question. 17 London boroughs. How diverse is that population that you're working amongst?
Yeah, probably one of the most, us in Yorkshire. We have absolutely everything and everyone. And it's probably our strongest selling point is that the breadth of opportunities within the sport and the communities that we're able to deliver to, which is obviously really powerful for us, but also really difficult to get a grasp of. I remember pretty fresh into starting in club cricket, the ECB sent us over the play cricket data of all the different club names, and we had to try and decipher who was who. And I was sat with Angus Fraser in the pavilion, and there are about 435 clubs technically registered to Middlesex. Now that included sides from Mumbai that put their home ground as Lords on play cricket, so they probably don't count. But yeah, part of the main job is actually figuring out who our clubs are, how we can access them, where they're playing cricket, what kind of cricket they're playing, and how we can support them. And then from there, it builds out. But yeah, I learned pretty quickly that our role is pretty different to some of the more rural counties that might only have 72 clubs and they're all affiliated. They all run All Stars and Dynamos. They all have a women's team. They've got 3 squares. Not quite the same for us. And making sure that our support isn't just focused on your Premier League clubs, but actually anybody that would like access to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge number of clubs. I'm guessing of that 400 plus clubs, probably still 2/3 of them are actual clubs who are playing in actual leagues in some shape or form. But then you've maybe got 25% or 30 who are it's 11 men and their dog who literally turn up once on a Sunday every couple of weeks.
Spot on. We've had many a philosophical debate over what constitutes a club, and the ECB have brought in the replacement to Club Mark, which is going to be the accreditation process, which will hopefully make things a bit easier in terms of how we categorise. But if 11 people and a dog want to call themselves a cricket club, who are we to stop them? Hey.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The way we now look at it, I was on a call with the ECB a few weeks ago. Effectively, a club is a affiliated cricket club if they are affiliated to their local county board. There's about 4,500 of them in the UK, but there are about 6,500 cricket clubs in total.
Yeah, exactly. So each county board will run their own kind of unique affiliation process. So clubs will pay a fee to Middlesex in the community. With that, they'll get different kind of perks and access to stuff for our primary league. So the Middlesex County Cricket League, which is the men's Saturday league, the Middlesex Women's Cricket League, which is the primary women's Sunday league, and then the junior league. You have to be affiliated to play in those competitions. And then with that, I tick a box on play cricket, and now they've got the neat little Middlesex logo at the top of the club's name on play cricket, and that's like the formal affiliation process. And then we've also introduced league affiliation as well, which again is chaos, especially when we've got leagues that run across London. So you've got all four of the counties and more represented by various different clubs. So again, just trying to formalise that and make sure that people know that we exist and they have access to myself, our club's team, and the county board.
And that's the key, isn't it? That if we don't know those clubs are out there, we can't help them, and vice versa. They can't access you guys. And this isn't a governing body and a governing board doing things for just purely legal qualification reasons. This is because we want to make sure that there's as much cricket going on across those 17 London boroughs as possible.
Spot on. And the perfect example. So you'll hear, if you speak to anyone about cricket in Middlesex, facilities is going to be our number one challenge as the only fully urban county. And so actually trying to map out where all of the grounds are, where all of the pitches are, who's playing on them, on what days, what times. I mean, the local club that I play for and coach at, we've just signed a hiring agreement with a local authority ground just around the corner. And I was about to set up for an under-11 game, and I find an Uber driver league tape ball game going on, and it was amazing. I rocked up into the car park. I was pretty confused at first and slightly concerned because it looked like hardball with no pads, just based off the thing off the bat. And it wasn't. There about 30 guys playing in a 15-over tape ball league, which is great. And you then want to go to that next stage of formalising it so that you can offer support. But to the same extent, we're happy to know that cricket is happening, facilities are getting used, and so long as they're being maximised and not damaged, then we're all happy.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that is the single biggest job possibly for the whole of what you guys are going to do, is have all of those facilities mapped, have almost the biggest spreadsheet in the world to say on what day of the week who's doing what. But no matter which way you do that, I'm guessing there's a shortage still indoors and outdoors.
Spot on. Indoors especially. We're really trying to grow our indoor offering. The Junior Cricket Association run a fantastic competition.
Okay.
And they've struggled for sites, whether it be late cancellations because the schools aren't able to provide staffing or there's exams. I remember it was a couple of weeks into starting with Middlesex, I'd taken over the running of our indoor competition, and I spent my Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. clearing exam desk and chairs to put them in the hallway to make sure that our county playoff could be played. And then I got told off for not putting them all back exactly how they needed to be. But and the same for outdoors. There's naturally always going to be a shortage, and I think we probably get 10 new cricket clubs that emerge each year that want to join the main leagues. And so just trying to really clarify where they're coming from, whether they understand how difficult it actually is to get grounds, but also not stopping people. If a group of guys want to set up a team, if a group of women want to set up a cricket team, we want to be able to facilitate it, but at the same time, ideally push them into pre-existing clubs that might be short on numbers to help grow them further.
Yeah, because is that tipping point balance, isn't it? Where you've got clubs that might have back in the day had 4, 5, 6 sides, now down to 2, and for whatever reason, there's numerous reasons they're sort of on the way down. But you've got other clubs coming up, and actually, okay, the population's grown, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we need the same exponential number of cricket clubs to a certain extent.
Well, we wouldn't be able to. And the FA went down an interesting route of really encouraging and facilitating mergers. And the main reason, not quite facilities, but strain on volunteers. And And in cricket, it's a little bit more difficult because we're all super patriotic towards our own clubs, and we really feel that identity is the most important thing. So, God forbid you lose your name or you lose your logo, because that's the thing that we all hold dear to us. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than my club losing our identity. But then to the same extent across Middlesex, we've seen loads of successful mergers. But you've just got to be slightly careful with it, because they're pretty tricky procedures. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we go over the next 5 years. We're losing cricket from sites probably too often, or more often than we'd like to. And while there are, the odd ground is popping up here or there, making sure that it's cricket as opposed to commercial redevelopment, houses being built and stuff.
And is that an issue across the boroughs, that literally the green field disappears and all of a sudden there's a warehouse or there's residential stuff going up?
We've had a couple. I can think of 2 or 3 in the last year or so. But again, there's not huge amounts we can do. We obviously work closely with the ECB, and our facilities team are really hot on it. And it stands at the top of our strategic priorities to make sure that, 1, we're not losing any cricket, and 2, that we're trying to install more Astro decks into places where we can potentially get them on.
Yeah, and once those Astro decks are in, that almost locks you in as well to that facility.
You'd think so. You'd hope so. Okay. It doesn't happen as much as you like, but yeah, on the whole, yes. And there are some really exciting conversations going on with clubs. Whereas previously we would have been the ones as a county board to go out and identify sites. Actually, we're now starting to find some clubs that are locating, whether it be football pitches or whatever, or engaging with local schools and identifying, okay, you've got a perfect space here in the summer that isn't getting used. Would you consider getting an NTP put in? That could then turn into a pitch for junior cricket, senior cricket, whatever it is.
And if you were to give me a very rough estimate, sort of, are we talking 5%, 10%, 15%, or 35, 40% more pitches you could do with to fulfill the amount of cricket that people want to play?
That's a great question. For the demand that there is, anywhere above a 25% increase.
Wow.
We've got, I reckon there's probably 10 clubs, just for junior cricket alone, there are probably 10 clubs in the county that are at capacity / on the verge of having to turn people away. And also when it comes to retention of young cricketers, once you get through the All-Stars and Dynamos, we see that drop off. It tends to be around under 15 level, where if cricket isn't the primary sport or a child isn't enjoying it as much, that's where you lose them. But actually, if you have more pitches, then there's more of a demand more space for friendly cricket, which you don't see as much of in juniors as you get older. And if you keep those engaged in friendlies, because it might be that somebody gets good at 15, 16, if they're already lost to the game to something else because they've stopped enjoying it. And that is the structure of junior cricket across the country, I'd imagine, is once you get past a certain age, it's all competitive, it's all play to win. And having been on the receiving end of batting 11 and not bowling quite a few times, it's not the best. But 25% roughly, I guess.
And it's
let me know.
No, it's an even bigger number, unfortunately, when we come to indoor facilities in the winter in particular. And there's a real dichotomy around the country here, isn't there? That in the winter, I reckon we could double our facilities and we still wouldn't have enough. But actually, then they wouldn't all get used in the summer. So it's a real balancing act between the two.
The space to watch is around these domes that the ECB are piloting. We're starting to see them being built, because I think as a multi-purpose facility that you can justify both winter and summer usage, that's going to be the way to go. But obviously these things aren't expensive. Having said that, I was out in Mumbai a few weeks ago, and you see the structures that they have. It's just a tin roof effectively. Now obviously the climate there is slightly different, but so long as you're protected from the rain, your facility's not getting damaged. I don't think I'd fancy being out in a cricket dome with no protection on the sides in December around here. But I'm sure that there are people that would, going out to bat in a puffer coat. They do it at St. Moritz for the ice cricket, so I don't see why we couldn't have it here. But yeah, that's the space to watch, especially with the rates for hiring indoor going up so massively. And you go to most of the schools, and the pull-out nets and the roll-out mats are 10, 15, 20 years old. They're in terrible condition. And so it basically just becomes either a race or a bidding war as to who can get the best facilities the quickest. Yeah,
I was going to ask that, because obviously around here in the Midlands in particular, there's a lot of schools who do rent those places out. Is that almost a quick win that we could go through as a cricket board, where you go, do you know what, invest into these schools to get the proper nets, to get the proper mats that are 15, 20 years old? My own club, the school we go to, exactly that issue, full stop, end of story. And it's going to cost, I don't know, 15 grand to replace the whole lot, done. But that's another 10 years worth of nets there versus £500,000 upwards for a dome on a site that doesn't exist at the moment.
I am currently working with a club to try and install some form of net facility in the school is literally on like the back garden of the cricket club, and so it makes so much sense. That would definitely be the recommendation, but not every school is as willing to. And again, it completely depends on the staff that are in there. If you've got a head teacher or a PE lead that are cricket nuts like we are, then it's an absolute no-brainer. But what do we do about the schools that don't necessarily have someone driving cricket and they're more interested in creating a futsal court or something along those lines? But that would obviously naturally be the way to go. But again, 15 grand out of club reserves that could arguably be spent on facility investment at their own cricket club is a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way I look at it, we've got the Knight Stokes Cup going on this year for secondary schools. There's 1,000 schools, I understand, have entered it. So that's 1,000 schools who are interested in cricket in some shape or form. That's where all the cricket boards around the country should be heading to and saying, okay, what can we do to work with you?
100%. That's the action plan. And fingers crossed it comes off.
Absolutely. Reading between the lines and say, what are the biggest challenges besides facilities in the Middlesex area? 17 boroughs, I'm guessing. Talking to Nick Friend at North Middlesex last year, one of the areas of difficulty you have is travel. You've got to get across this place, and it's bloody hard work. And I've just got this vision of getting on the tube and on a bus on a Saturday morning and seeing players with bags left, right, and centre, because it is easier, to say the least. Apart from travel, what are the other sort of key areas where you guys just think this is a problem, we've got to solve it?
Great question. Where to start?
Says there's a few.
Yeah, well, they're all good challenges to have. There's no existential crisis within cricket in Middlesex. Facilities is the one that we all talk about all the time.
Yeah,
I think within my role, the issues that we've had around, or at least challenges around the compliance, the governance, the safeguarding standards, has been really difficult. Obviously, the need for it is abundantly clear, and just bringing clubs on board with that. Volunteer time is absolutely precious, and we're losing volunteers out the game. And so as a county board, we've really got to try to strike that balance between, well, there's an expectation that clubs have to do this because that's the only way that your club can operate safely, whilst also not creating burnout or resentment towards the sport and towards the game. And so finding ways of making people's lives easier and not taking up too much of their time. And I'm sure we'll come on to one of our resources that makes that a lot easier. But yeah, when it comes to affiliation, T's and C's, safe hands management, this new ECB accreditation, which is going to take up more people's time, trying to find systems and methods to keep things as straightforward and not time consuming as possible, in the knowledge that it takes a lot of time to run a cricket club, and for plenty of clubs you're relying on 2 or 3, sometimes one individual that does everything. So whether it be diversifying committees, getting new people on board, or encouraging new junior parents to come through and support, because there are plenty of volunteering opportunities within clubs, and we just need to signpost, one, the importance of it, but also 2, that actually it's quite a fun thing to do. Like, it's really enjoyable to be an activator on a Sunday morning and give back to the game. And there are some really great initiatives and programs that kind of lean towards that. So for me, it's signposting them, making sure people know, and then helping them as best we can. Now, I can't go into every cricket club and solve all of their problems, but if a 30-minute club development meeting or a 1-hour site visit where I can go and speak to a few key people at the club, or one of my colleagues is able to advise them on this, that, and the other, that's where we want to get to.
Definitely. And I think you've hit a nail on the head there, haven't you? Because nationally, we know we've got issues with facilities, indoor, outdoors, and it differs from place to place, whether it's rural, whether it's metropolitan like where you guys are. But the one area that we've got problems with across the whole of the country, without any shadow of doubt, is volunteers. There's just never enough. My wife always says to me, she's amazed how many people volunteer at football clubs, cricket clubs. That it's something we do as a nation. We volunteer really well, but there's never enough, is there?
No, and where the saddest example, which affects me really deeply, is teas basically being eradicated out of cricket, and it's my club's one of the only ones, at least that I'm aware of, in the Hearts League to still be doing them, and it's really sad. And you fear for the direction in which cricket's going, and we're seeing more of a need to pay people to do roles. And while I have no problem whatsoever with giving some form of remuneration, especially to young people, as a form of incentive, but we're seeing less and less of it. And stuff like the Cricket Collective Awards are great because it reminds you that actually there are people that are doing really, really amazing work. But the next step is to then inspire that next generation. I'm really hoping that with the Women's World Cup this summer that we're going to see a spike in those numbers, and whether it be, I don't know, Get Set Weekend or clubs having their own internal events they do to try and increase volunteering numbers. But we're going to need it, because otherwise clubs are really going to struggle. And if you put under strain, whenever we talk about governance with clubs, the most important thing is, with your committee, have the right structure in place so that it doesn't all sit on one person. Because if that one person were to walk away, or were to have to leave for whatever reason, club's in serious trouble, and you're picking up the slack without necessarily having the right expertise for it. And you find, one of our junior managers at my club is really good at LinkedIn searching people, so you can find out what people are doing and see, their skill set leans really nicely into, I don't know, marketing and social media for the club, or this person is working in finance, maybe they'd be interested in scoring, that kind of thing. And as ridiculous as it sounds, you got to find ways, I guess, of going out the box and divvying up to make sure that people are aware of what is needed of them and giving the opportunities. And if it means that I need to spend an extra half an hour after training teaching people how to use Play Cricket Scorer, I'm really happy to do it, because it's a good use of time that in turn is probably going to save me as a junior league time, and hopefully others down the line as well.
Yeah, massively. And I think you've just hit a really interesting sort of tipping point for myself at my own club up here in Staffordshire, where you get those new volunteers coming on, and it's getting them trained and getting them doing stuff, because if you don't do that, it's the same old people carry on doing the same old things, full stop. And you don't want to wind these guys up. You want them to join in and get sorted. But it's a real interesting tipping point, isn't it? Where we're very lucky at our club. We've got a dozen or so people who are doing stuff all the time, but we could probably do with another 6 or 7, and trying to get them on board. It's almost, you're betwixt and between, aren't you? Because you sort of want as many helping as possible, but you also don't want to leave it on too few.
And we have a gatekeeping community whereby I'm the worst example. I really enjoy wagon wheels being done, because I feel it helps my coaching for junior cricketers. And if I'm going to delegate scoring responsibilities to somebody else, and they might not feel comfortable doing the wagon wheel because they want to concentrate on the other things, you become precious over it. And we have that across the board. You might have that one parent who absolutely loves umpiring, so much so that they will not let anyone else do it. But then they go on holiday for 3 weeks and no one else has had any experience of doing it. And so trying to balance all of that, and this isn't a Middlesex specific problem, as you said. This runs nationally. I'm sure people listening will be able to relate pretty closely to it. But everyone has the right intentions. I don't think there's any club that's probably sat there thinking, oh yeah, no, we don't need volunteers. We're probably all right. Everyone knows it, regardless of whether you've got 50 members or 1,000 members. And as I said, for us, the main thing is that the clubs know that we're here to support them. And if they reach out to us, that I'm not going to be able to find them 20 new people that can come and do all these roles, but there are courses and there are opportunities to learn about the different things that they can do. But if those conversations aren't happening in the first place, then it's really hard to support.
Yeah, definitely. I always look at clubs in general as, from the ground upwards, white sheet of paper, what would you need to do to set up a cricket club from square one? First thing you need is a facility. Forget the indoor one, you need an outdoor facility. Once you've got the facility, then you need players. But once you've got players, you need the admin. Once you've got the admin, you need the scorer. And it's just tracking it all the way through. And I don't think there's a single club in the country, and I'd be amazed if anyone could argue the toss on this one, that would say no to a new player, or no to a new scorer, or because we all need them. It might be that you need a scorer of your sixth team and not your first five, but actually it just takes the weight off other people. And I think that's where the sort of caring and sharing thing is, isn't it, between us?
But we also need reserves. Like the best example, week 1 of the season for 3 sides, you've got 32 people available. You're desperate for that extra one. Last weekend, 58 available for 33 slots. And it's so naturally, I guess, time of year that the sport takes place, whether it be exams, half terms, bank holidays, summer holidays, it becomes incredibly difficult to continually have the same people around, whether it be the first team skipper getting married last week of the season, or your junior chair having to go away for work, whatever it is. And so, sharing the love around and making sure that everyone is able to chip in. Interesting that you say about that kind of, if you're starting from scratch, what sets up, or what do you need to set up a cricket club? And obviously, in Middlesex these days, a facility isn't even a guarantee. You just need a strip of land that you could arguably play. But we will discuss in the office, what does the perfect cricket club look like? And the answer is there isn't one, right? But there are definitely things that we could pinch from different clubs that they do really well. So X Club might have a really nicely run junior section with a youth committee that contribute to the main committee. Another club might have the nicest square in the country. Another might have, I don't know, an incredible pavilion. You put it all together, and I think some internal learning amongst clubs. So we sat down all of our Premier League chairs at Lords in the winter, because it was the first time that they ever kind of all been brought together in the same room, just to get a feel for how they're finding their roles, how their cricket clubs are, and what might they be struggling with. So one club that might be struggling a bit financially could learn from another club that, oh, well, this is how we're diversifying our revenue streams to bring in cash this way. And similarly, strain on facilities for junior games, for example, ideas get bounced around. And in Middlesex, we're trying to encourage more kind of cross-collaboration across clubs. And I'm sure it's something that would benefit across the wider cricketing community, because we're so concentrated on what's going on internally, and we don't have time.
100%.
In the summer, the prospect of spending more than 10 minutes on the boundary when you're playing an opposition talking about their cricket club, you don't have time to think about it. And the way that it works is that as soon as the season finishes in September, no one wants to think about it, at least for 2-3 weeks. And then you start panicking, oh my gosh, we haven't booked winter nets, we don't have a coach, we don't have this, we don't have the other. You get to January, you start thinking about player recruitment and registration. That January to March window goes really, really quickly. And then all of a sudden you're into it again. And it's this vicious circle. I mean, I've been playing adult cricket for 10 seasons now. And I can remember my debut like it was yesterday. I can tell you how many runs I scored in week 3 when I was 16. It all merges into one, and it goes by petrifyingly quickly. And then when you have changeover, so let's say you have a change of chair every 3 years, and each club will have kind of different constitutions that will dictate length of term, but it's really hard to implement change over a short period of time. So when I don't know about up in Staffordshire or in other counties, but we'll often talk about club development plans, and people scoff, and it's just another thing, a bit more bureaucracy, another piece of admin that we need to do. But actually having some form of document that you're going to treat as your North Star, that this is what we're aiming to do next year, 3 years, 5 years, so that if there was a complete overhaul of your committee, the people that are coming in aren't completely blind as to what the direction of travel was. Because otherwise, you look at the clubs that have gorgeous new pavilions and brilliant facilities and this, that, and the other, and really good cultures. It's probably been a long-term plan, and it's not something that's happened over a November to February on a WhatsApp group. And so that's what you try and encourage. It doesn't always work out. And I appreciate the challenges with it. It's really easy for me to sit from afar and say, well, if you just put everything on paper, then magically in 5 years, you're going to have a £2 million pavilion. I know that's not quite how it works. But at least taking some of the steps towards trying to achieve that and really committing to it, because you write something down on paper that other people have access to, whether it be a membership or the committee, it starts to become real. You work towards it, and then you have accountability, as opposed to just standing up at the AGM and saying, oh, well, next year we're going to win the Premier League. And then no one really knows what steps have been taken to actually achieve it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's something I'm very passionate about, but our chairman at my club's very passionate about as well, where when we did the first club development plan to pass through our club mark a number of years ago, that didn't just then sit in a drawer and get looked at. Every year it comes out and we go, okay, where are we at now? Now, sometimes things go awry, but at least we're looking at something. And we had a wonderful conversation 6 weeks ago when we were looking at our badge and we know that in 5 years' time our club is 150 years old. We got to start planning that now. We can't start planning that in 3.5 years' time, because by then we'll be on top of it. So we're already starting to talk about what we're going to do, what do we want to develop, where do we want to go as a club, and work on that stage. And I think I'm business on a day-to-day basis, so I do this all year round. But I think the biggest thing I find is that people get the cycle wrong. So, the example I will use is I've just set up a brand new fundraising page for our club. It's a fundraising platform now. And most people would say, well, why are you doing it now? You're in the middle of the season. I said, well, because actually, if you leave it till October, it's too late and nobody's thinking about cricket. Get on with it now. Start building the process. Start building some momentum behind it. And then once you get to the new year, you're already on board with what's going on for next year. Make it very clear. Anything that I build right now at my club is not for 2026. It's for the future, because 2026 is done. The Premier League Cricket Club, that we work on as a website, as a podcast. I was only saying to someone this morning, 99% of what I do now is reactive. And it will be exactly the same until about September the 21st this year, when the national finals are then complete. After that, then I go into proactive mode for next, and it's got to be like that. And that's the nature of the game, isn't it?
100%. People often ask me, how does my job actually work? Like, what does my split of where my time is spent go towards? Yeah. And actually, it's the other way around from what people would think. People would think that because I work in cricket, my winters are really quiet, my summers are really busy. It's completely the opposite. So the winter, the harder you work, the more you're able to enjoy your summer, because you don't have to be as reactive, because you put all of the foundations in place. But 100%, you're firefighting 90% of the time, and whether that's with an admin hat on, a club hat on, a Middlesex hat on, it's what comes in. But to the same extent, you don't want to be sat twiddling your thumbs during summer. As nice as it would be to be able to sit at Lords and watch every minute of cricket that's played there this summer, obviously not going to be the case. So within our team, we've kind of split up roles, and one of mine is kind of looking at strategically how we can think slightly longer term in terms of our club development support. So I'm going to go try and get around a few of the counties, just to learn about what their lay of the land is like, and especially counties that are made up really differently to ours. Because it's really easy to be, caught up in, it's really tough being in Middlesex. We're the only urban county. It's really difficult. I find it really hard. I don't have any solutions. But actually, there are counties that might have, solutions to problems that really resonate with us. And so I'm looking forward to that, and also seeing, different cricket clubs, their setups. I don't think I'll get to every single one in the country.
No, but that sounds like a really worthwhile road trip, that does.
Yeah, do you know what? There's part of me that would love to do it. I reckon I've got a little mapping tool that I use on Google Maps of all the grounds that I've played at, and I've done about 80% of the clubs in Hertfordshire. I try and avoid Middlesex just for a bit of professional separation. And as you said, the travel time is crazy. So I live and play all my cricket in Hertfordshire and always have done. But the prospect of having to travel from North London to the south on the tube, especially with weather like this at the moment. Yeah, rough.
I'm thinking that road trip for you, where you're based in Hertfordshire, you've only got to go east to East Anglia, west to the West of England Premier League, north to the Midlands, and maybe south to Sussex for the day or something.
And then I've done 10% of 2 leagues, maybe.
Exactly. But if you got to 4 different areas, that's 10% of the 39 boards that are out there. You can talk to. I just know with my own knowledge, the Sussex Foundation is completely differently set up to the way a lot of the rest of the country is, because Chris Coleman drove that through before he moved to Surrey, and they've now done the same. Where Surrey, you could go to there, but actually it's only in year 2 of their new setup, whereas Sussex is 3 or 4 years on, so you'd be able to build that. West of England has the challenges of very rural, no two ways about it. Midlands, Birmingham's a great example. It's very similar around Birmingham, and again, demographics are very similar. And I think doing that, you're going to get the best of all worlds. And I always tell people the story, and I won't sort of go into too much detail for confidentiality reasons, but I've had clubs and leagues call me in the last 6 months and say, right, I've taken over as the new chairman of XYZ. Could you tell me which clubs in the country work the best, which leagues in the country work? What would you take from various ones to make the perfect league, the perfect club? And like you say, there's no such thing. But actually, there's loads of little ideas out there that do work, and just pick it up on little bits and pieces along the way. And I think that's what you sound as though you want to do for your clubs and leagues in Middlesex.
100%. We're a rare breed of individuals that, I mean, you and I could sit and chat cricket for weeks. And whenever people ask the desert island question of who do you want to get stuck with, put me with 4 other cricket nuffs and I'd be absolutely fine, because you could talk about it forever. But yeah, you're spot on. The prospect of trying to learn how things are done in different places and what works for other clubs, and then trying to compare that to what you have within your framework and your setup is super powerful, because there are your market leaders that if you go on social media, and it tends to be the clubs that pop up on your advertised page or whatever, they're the ones that are doing pretty well, the ones with their YouTube channels and their commentators. But they might not necessarily be perfect across the board, and no one is. Every club's going to have their internal politics and their own problems to deal with and whatnot. But at least being aware of it, so that if I hear of a problem that a club has, being able to then turn and go, well, actually, I went and visited Smethwick up in Birmingham, and they were able to tell me that was how they addressed that problem. It went really well. And you go down to Ormskirk and you ask the same thing. And just having that roundness and not thinking so Middlesex centrically, so that you are able to expand out. And I've been really fortunate that anyone that I've spoken to within kind of the rec board staffing world have been super friendly and have welcomed conversations with open arms, and to the same extent ECB staff and cricket regulator staff. There's a really nice community of people that ultimately we all want to do the same thing. Nobody works in recreational cricket for any reason other than the fact that we love the sport and we want to give back to it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the point to remember. Like, amongst all of the politics and the drama, I've had a morning talking about discipline and incidents that have gone on over the last few days, and it happens. The weather's hot, people get frustrated, people get overexcited. So used to it, we're all guilty of it. But just remembering why we do it and the reasons is really important. And to the same extent, it gets you thinking, making the point about volunteers and lack of volunteers. I would love to know the percentage of, let's take male cricketers as an example, male league playing cricketers on a Saturday. In a 6 men's Saturday side club, what percentage of those 66 people playing are contributing more to the club than paying their fees and rocking up on a Saturday, and maybe coming to club training on a Wednesday night, maybe sticking around for a pint afterwards? Because I reckon I know at least that the clubs that I've been involved with, the number's pretty low.
I'm going to say the number would be somewhere between 10 and 20% maximum. The 66 players there, I'm talking somewhere between 6 and 15 are the ones who are at it week in, week out. From what I know around the country, no difference anywhere whatsoever. And there's a reassurance in that we know it's not different, but at the same time, it doesn't make it right. We want those more.
It's sad, if anything. And that every club has 3 or 4 people that if you absolutely had to call on them, they would be there. So they're not there every day. They might be super busy with work, or they might live miles away from the club, but you knew if you had to call on them that they would be there. But for the other guys, it always makes you think, if you explained it to them and explained that, well, without your contribution, there's every chance that the club doesn't run in the next 10 years. And catching people as early as well. And this is why, whether it's the Young Leaders in Cricket program or the new ECB Young Cricket Collective program, if we can get it kind of ingrained into our junior cricketers early, that volunteering is a huge part of the game and contributing to the club, and it being more than just something that you take from, and turning your club within the local area into a community hub, as opposed to something that you rock up, you do something you enjoy, and you leave, and making it a little bit less transactional. That's how you get to that end goal of sustainability, which I guess is the name of the game: sustainability and inclusivity.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no coincidence, shall we say, that we're publishing this pod and this episode on National Volunteers Week. This is going to be out on Friday, the 5th of June. And if it's not, and you're listening to this, that means I've not done my job. But that means that this is the big week that it's all about volunteers of all shapes and sizes, whether it's somebody doing an hour here or an hour there, or 12 hours, 15 hours. every single hour. And there's a lovely thing that GMB do every year when it comes to Christmas. They have a sort of a little totalizer, a totalizer, to add up all the hours that people are going to put into helping various charities there. That'd be a wonderful, can you imagine if we'd had that in cricket and understood the amount of hours that some people are putting in? That then would just throw it back to the ones, as you say, who do turn up and it is transactional. Actually, if you could just take half an hour off each of these people, that makes all the difference, doesn't it?
100%. And that's all it needs to be. It's 10 minutes. It's just somebody different pulling the rope in at the end of a day's play, or one person right at the beginning of the season volunteering to, wash the side screens or whatever it is, taking the time to, I don't know, clean up after the barbecue so that the person who's put on the barbecue and been kind enough to stand behind the grill when it's 33 degrees, making sure that they don't have to clean up and they can actually sit and enjoy their food afterwards. And we are getting there. I do feel as if the general mood, I couldn't tell you what it was like 20, 30 years ago, but I can only imagine that the atmosphere amongst club cricket was, everyone chips in. And to the same extent, the social extent was still there. So one of the things that we've brought in for this year, which I know is run successfully in Sussex, Hampshire and Surrey, is we're collaborating with the Slam to set up a midweek T20 comp. But the idea being that instead of it just being your first team cricketers that dominate all the time, we've basically set it up so that if you are a second, third, fourth team cricketer at your club, then you're able to play. And if you're a first team cricketer, you're not eligible. And the idea being you want to capture those guys and girls who might have fallen out of the game because, family lives, children, can't give up a full Saturday. I mean, having done, what time did I get to? I got to the ground at 11 on Saturday, left at 8:30. Which is a pretty long shift. And so for a lot of people, that's not accessible. So actually, if you can set up a tournament where it's 2.5 hours out of somebody's midweek, it's no different to, I don't know, going on a long cycle or going to the Pilates class or whatever it is that people do instead of playing cricket. I wouldn't know because that's all my time is taken up.
Precisely.
And similarly, bringing back the social side to cricket as well, and people sticking around for a drink and having a pizza. And actually, we played at my side played at Old Elizabethan's Cricket Club on Thursday night. It was a really, really nice occasion because you've got juniors that are training in the nets. You've got a few of the older members, the social members sitting and having a pint watching. Each side brings, partners, friends, family. And it reminds you that we've got a really special community of people, and being able to, in a relatively close game, being able to sit and have a beer together afterwards and talk about the match, which is one of my favourite experiences. You know that you've had a good game of cricket if everyone sticks around afterwards. And encouraging that side of things and making sure that your scorers feel included in that, your umpires feel included in that, the lad who puts the frog box up, that kind of thing. That's where, for me, I reckon I enjoy it the most, is knowing that everything that gets put in, all the work that gets put in over the winter by everyone, by all volunteers, exclude myself, kind of from a county board perspective, but just being a clubby, the thing that we enjoy the most is being able to sit after a game and just chat rubbish, basically.
Chat cricket, ironically.
Literally.
Definitely. Hey, we're going to take a quick break there, but when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the tools that Jack and the Middlesex of the community guys use in particular. And one of them, we make no bones about it, is our sponsors, Spond. We're going to talk admin. The most boring thing in the world when it comes to not just cricket, but practically anything we have to do in life. However, like death and taxes, it's something we can't get away from. And Jack, you've got a very special relationship with our sponsors at Spond, and you've been described to me as a super fan. I think I'm not far off behind you myself, because my club's gone through that sort of transition from one app to another and stuck with Spond and built with it over the last few years. But you guys have taken it a little bit further in Middlesex of the community.
Yeah. I'll have to start at the beginning. It's the most ridiculous story of how it came about. But I started at the Uni of Birmingham in 2020, lockdown year. Got involved with the cricket club, and everything was done on Facebook. But people would miss stuff on Facebook. If you didn't have a Facebook account, it was a nightmare. And so we basically went searching for an app that would allow us to do all of our admin in one place. And I know there are various competitors, but we landed on Spond and we gave it a go, and certainly didn't look back. So I think we started with maybe 50 members, ended up with about 300 by the time I left uni. And communicating with students or a large number of students was probably one of the most difficult experiences I've had, although members at the moment at cricket clubs seems challenging getting sides out as well. But yeah, so we started using the app just as a way of centralizing our communications, picking teams, collecting match fees, all that kind of thing. And then I got to working at Middlesex, I reckon probably a year afterwards. It was actually our county safeguarding officer, Amber, and I were talking kind of about what are our communication policies, and also, how do we want to encourage clubs to communicate with each other. And obviously the big thing is, WhatsApp groups are pretty dangerous places, and we don't want under 18s on groups with over 18s, this, that, and the other. And so I said, well, I've got an idea. I know an app, an organisation that we should reach out to. So it was actually Amber, I think, managed to get in touch with Rob. Rob linked us in with Charlene at Spond, and we got talking and basically worked out that it wasn't necessarily a sponsorship deal that we were after. We weren't looking to kind of gain any money from it. We wanted to recognise Spond as our official and trusted partner that we encourage cricket clubs to use as a way of communicating with your membership, centralising all your data, and everything along those lines. So since then, we've had really productive conversations with the team. The team from Oslo have flown over, and I've had great conversations with them about kind of different ways that we can use the app and how it can grow and develop. When we talk about super fan levels, I had to ask to be able to represent Spond out at the MCG and SCG wearing a t-shirt and trying to tell people about how amazing the app was. I won't dare to share the amount of screen time that I spend on it, because it's pretty sad, to be honest. But for me, I think I'm sat in probably 17, 18 different groups, clubs, teams, whatever you want to call them. So the phone pings relentlessly, but actually having everything in one place in a nice, neat, organized way, as opposed to a million unread WhatsApp messages, it's a lot easier for me.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You're 17, 18 different groups that you're part of on your own Spond at the moment, where people have communities on WhatsApp now, and they can make announcemements to people, and they've got all the different WhatsApp groups. But we all know that, love it or hate it, there's always going to be one person on WhatsApp who says something they shouldn't, or there's always going to be one person who puts it in the wrong WhatsApp group. We've all seen that regularly. Whereas communication via Spond it's there to do a job at the end of the day. And the way I describe it at our own club is Spond is the cricket communication app, and WhatsApp is your social go do what the hell you want app. Because if you want to chat crap, you know where to go. If you want to actually see availability and all those things, it goes on to Spond, because it is so much easier to have all that information in one place.
100%. It's exactly that. And I think the main point I found was that where group chats can get polluted with all sorts, and it becomes really difficult to find information. If you're sending details for one match, and then 6 people ask a question, and then a scorecard gets sent in and people are congratulating someone on a scorecard, having it split up so that you've got all your fixtures, your posts, your match reports, your payments, just simplifies things. And the fact that it's not just club cricket that I'm seeing it used in, I've been able to use it for my coaching business. I've supported the Middlesex County pathway to integrate onto it fully, so both boys and girls pathways are all onto it. I've got a couple of friends that have added me to their club so I could help with a few of the tech questions. There's something about it that's really popular. Naturally, the fact that it's a free to use product is amazing, and having spent time speaking to the team and getting to know them, and kind of the core value of what the product is that ultimately it's not something looking to make millions of pounds. They want to make volunteers' lives easier. And if you look at how club and recreational grassroots sport is run in Norway, our lives would be so much easier as admins, and we'd have to spend so much less time doing it if we had their structure. But yeah, for the amount of time, and knowing that I'm at a relatively small club compared to others, I will speak so strongly without, people will joke that I'm on commission with Spond. I promise that I'm not, but I'll really happily explain that it's the best decision that I made, shifting whatever group it was onto it. And I can't recommend highly enough for those that are still on WhatsApp. And people will throw the old excuse, oh, well, that's how I've been doing it for years. Or what about our older members that might not be able to use the app? I don't think I've found something easier to use or explain to people how to use, whether it be the sign-up process, creating events, polls, fixtures, whatever it is. Made my life and hopefully others easier as well.
I always describe it to people the way we did it as a club, where, like most clubs, we were on WhatsApp for years. We were then on a different app for 2 years, maybe 3, I can't remember. But then I discovered Spond myself, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago now. And I got the usual pushback. Oh, no, we can't. Well, we've been with XYZ. Hang on a minute. XYZ, the opposition app, had gone from free to not cheap. And I said, look, Spond's free. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll run the juniors on Spond for first year, just the juniors. And all the junior parents got involved from day one, because most of them were already on Spond at rugby clubs, at football clubs, at hockey clubs, and everywhere else. Once the seniors could see that was working, they were like, oh, well, why don't we use that for and we then did the seniors. And I think it was year 3 before we actually even put match fees through it. And I look at, I say to our committee very openly, for that first 2 years, we gave Spond 0, absolutely nothing by using their app. Now we give them that small percentage of commission when we have match fees come through, or whether it be annual subs coming through. But you know what? I don't mind paying that a little bit, because the amount of ease that it gives us for actually volunteers' time. And yesterday it took me half an hour to put 3 teams worth of match fees on across 6 different payment plans. Done. But how long would that take me on a WhatsApp group? How long would that take me to then collect the cash? It's all done nice and easily. We get a nice little payout every single week into our bank account. Just got the treasurer going, can I make sure that's right? Done. That to me is where you can go from 0 to hero almost with it, can't you?
100%. And I think for our Sunday side, the amount of time that our treasurer, he's also the club president, and he's not young. And so for him to have to go through every transaction and chase people to make sure that they've paid, versus me being able to just collect it all up and see on the app who's paid and who hasn't, the amount of time that it would take him, I think that small transaction fee is definitely worth it. And as you said, the point about the gradual integration, I think, is the big one. We hate changing cricket. I remember when we had to start trying to push Play Cricket Score Alive to people, or, coming off hits and loading scorecards onto Play Cricket. We are naturally a sport that are not very good with change. And so completely understanding of clubs that don't want to just shift over straight away, especially if they're using something that they think works. But if it's the sake of saving yourself that 200, 300 quid subscription a year to move on to a free platform, trial it with a small group to start with. As you said, the juniors is a great place to start, even if it's just your All Stars and Dynamos as a way of communicating with people. Start small and look at the ease and the amount of time that you'll save. And then you scale it up and you realize really quickly that it's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think also if you start small with the juniors, those parents then feel part of the club and they're part of that community.
And they want to start taking. I've got 4 of the most amazing mums who help out with the admin, and they absolutely love using the app because it's just so straightforward. And they know that where previously things run off WhatsApp and it was a nightmare, and handwritten lists were being kept for team selection and whatnot. Actually, they're asking to take it off my hands because they know that it's ticking a few boxes, pressing a few buttons, bish bash bosh, you're done. Thank you very much, Jack. I've saved you half an hour. And this is where, looping back to the conversation around volunteer strain and volunteer time, being a club admin actually isn't as bad as it seems. It's just, if you're able to communicate efficiently with your membership, running a cricket club isn't the hardest thing in the world. When you struggle to communicate clearly, that's where your problems start to creep in, because people miss out on communications, or things are sent to the wrong people. They see the wrong things. And so having everything centrally in one place and just having real clarity, hence why I'm a super fan.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that has been a big improvement in the last year or two, as well as the fact that it's integrated to play cricket for all your fixtures at the start of the year. Before then, there was me building the spreadsheet, there was me putting it into the old app and making sure. No, it just all integrated. Now I'm the one who still messes about with it when it comes through to the planner, because I want it to look in a certain way. But actually, you don't need to. It's all there. All of those fixtures are in. You don't have to think twice about it. And if you've got 6 Saturday sides, a Sunday side, a midweek side, 16 junior sides, that's a lot of admin to get fixtures into one place and one portal. If it's linked to Play Cricket, jobs are good.
Spot on. The only thing it's missing is live stream integration, which I brought up with the product development team. But yeah, exactly that. And to the same extent, small things like for county pathway players, as an example, if the coach wants to get in touch with a player or to send them feedback afterwards, instead of having to go through the way that it should be done, which is, or previously how it was done, which is that the coach is on a WhatsApp group, but that WhatsApp group has the parents, the physio, the psychologist, whatever. But actually being able to set up individual subgroups for players, for me, from a coaching perspective, it's so much easier that the kids that I work with, I'm able just to set up a subgroup at the end of each session. You post what you've worked on. It allows the opportunity, especially for kids that have their own phones and have their apps with the correct guardian measures in place. They're able to engage and ask questions in a encrypted and safe way. And obviously parents having oversight of that as well just makes everything so much easier. It's very black and white when it comes to what policies and protocols should be and how things are carried out. And again, runs at the forefront of what the team at Spond are trying to achieve. And having spoken to their staff about what they want to get out of it, and Charlene, who's the UK lead, speaks really passionately about what her role was with her son's football club and how that all works, and how going from being a volunteer to working for an app that is set up for volunteers, it's really cool. They're a cool group of people. Yeah,
and I think one of the favourite things I've heard is that they're being used by people in this country with a team of 6, all the way up to clubs with thousands of members on. I hope I'm not misquoting Rob when I think he said there's one football club down south with close to 10,000 members on their Spond app. I mean, that's a big football club in some shape or form. But I can picture it. The local football club to me, if they were to put all of their players on junior only, if they were to put all of their players on, that would easily get close to 1,000 straight away. I don't even know if they use it, to be frank, but they should be if they're not, because that's where you keep all that information in one place. And like any system, whether it's Play Cricket, whether it's Spond, it's only as good as the data that goes on there in the first place. And that's where we need to encourage clubs and encourage parents and players to make sure that it's as up to date as possible.
100%. And being able to, keeping records up to date, especially we found when we transitioned over, making sure that everyone actually signs up to the new app and you don't lose anyone along the way. The data point is one that, the amount of information that we store as cricket people, whether it be the treasurer with the club accounts to the first team scorer who might keep, club averages over history, and that kind of information. Again, we're a special breed, so we hold it pretty dear to us, and it's important. And to the same extent, I really like being able to flaunt that this is the number of hours of sessions that we have run for junior cricket over the summer, or these are the number of different participants that we had across all of our programs. And that kind of data point really helps when it comes to sponsorship. If you're able to, reach out to your external stakeholders and let them know, well, this is what our delivery metrics are. This is what we're doing. This is where we want to get to. We're talking about club development plans. It's pretty good to know where your starting point is in terms of your membership numbers to then try and achieve tangible growth. And again, can all be done from the Spond Club platform.
Absolutely. So anybody who's not on Spond, simple messages, why not? I'm a pretty blunt salesman most of the time. We want people to be using it. Yes, they do sponsor our show, The Overthrow, but at the same time, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't use it and believe in it. And anybody who knows me knows full well that that's exactly how I live my life, full stop. We use it. And take our example, go from small to large. If you're a club with 6 or 7 teams, you don't have to use it all in one go. But if it can make your life easier, go for it. By all means, I'm sure Jack at Middlesex and the community wouldn't mind if anyone reaches out to him. Guys know where to reach me at the Premier League Cricket Club. Or just search Spond app. It's all over the bloody internet. It's not difficult to find, and get on board. Thanks for your time, Jack. Absolute pleasure talking all things volunteers, Middlesex, the community, and obviously Spond. And look forward to catching up with you when you get to the Midlands, mate.
Thank you very much for having me. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.